Next, in the relevant risk terminologies, we have the risk associated with manufacturing, trading, and services. So we have the market risk, the operation risk, the financial risk, and the business risk. So market risk. So what is market risk? Market risk affects the performance of the entire market. Involves here is the product risk and the competitor risk. So the product risk is the complexity, the obsolescence, the research and development, packaging, and delivery of warranties. So then we have the competitor risk with the pricing strategy, market share, and the market strategy. Then we have the operations risk, management or technical failure. So we have the process stoppage, health and safety, after sales service failure, environmental, technological obsolescence. We have the integrity. So in the integrity, it have the management fraud, the employee fraud, and the illegal acts. So then we have the financial risk. So fulfilling of financial obligations. In there we have the interest rates, volatility, foreign currency, liquidity, derivative, and viability. Then last is the business risk. So changes in the possibility of making inadequate profits due to uncertainties. So example of this is the regulatory change, the reputation, the political, the regulatory and the legal, shareholder relations. We have the credit rating, capital availability, and the business interruptions. Relevant risk terminologies, we have the risk associated with financial institution. So we have the financial risk and non-financial risk. So the financial risk is composed of liquidity risk, market risk, and credit risk. And in non-financial risk, it includes the operational risk, the regulatory risk, environmental risk, integrity risk, and leadership risk. So the financial risk, refers your business ability to manage your debt and fulfill your financial obligations. So it generally arises due to instability and losses in the financial market. So it can be classified as into various types. We have the liquidity risk. So the liquidity risk is a risk that arises out of an inability to execute transactions. The market risk, so it is a risk arises due to the movement in stock price, interest rates, and etc. Then we have the credit risk, is a risk that arises when one fails to fulfill their obligations towards their counterparties. Then in the non-financial risk, a non-financial risk is a risk which are not covered by the financial traditional risk management. So it involves here some various types as operational risk. So a risk that arises out of failures such as mismanagement, technical failures. So example of these are some employee fraud, illegal acts, and bankruptcy. Then the regulatory risk. So a risk changes to the laws or regulations affecting the business. Example of this is the taxation, changing laws and policies, the government. So it affects the business. Then we have the environmental risk. So a risk that such example of these are wars, terrorism, natural disasters, or calamity. Then the integrity risk. So a risk that is a threat to the reputation due to the incidents such as bankruptcy, bribery, corruption, and etc. Then last is the leadership risk. So a risk of a loss of focus on management and operations. Next, so we have the chapter 12. So practical guidelines in reducing and managing business risk. So there are practical guidelines. So number one of this is understand the nature of the risk. So this will allow the business to start mitigating the risk. So in that, the business might able to assess and controlling the threats might come. Also, they can foresee or predict the future possible outcomes of this. So then we have the identify and prioritize risk. So this make it easier to avoid unnecessary surprises, in which it helps to define the categories into which risks they fall. Then, so in it involves here are the organizational risks. So organizational risks are potential for losses through uncertainty. So there are typical areas in this organizational risk. We have the financial, the commercial, strategic, technical, and operational.